Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's consider the following problem. We have the deceased who left a father, an ab, and he left, let's say he left 10 bints, 10 daughters. We know that if there's two or more daughters and there's no sons, then they receive 2/3. We know that a father receives a sixth plus asaba plus the remainder if there's just daughters. The masla is made from 6 because between 2/3 and 1/6 the lowest common denominator is 6. We put 6 up here and then we work out 2/3 of 6 is 4, and we work out 1/6 of 6 is 1. That totals 5, and so the remainder is 1. So the father then gets 2/6 or 1/3, and the daughters share 4/6. Now the problem here is that we have 10 daughters, and we have to give them 4 parts. And we can do this. We can divide 4 by 10 and we'll get an amount, etc. But in inheritance, classically what we want to do is we want to make sure that each person gets a full portion. So rather than getting a fraction, rather than getting 4/10 each, we want to give them a full portion, and there's various ways we can do this, and depends on the numbers which come about. So in the previous lesson we learned that there were 4 relationships between numbers. The first was called tamathul, and this is where 2 numbers are the same. So an example of this would be 1 and 1, and we learned that there was no problems with that. We just took either of the numbers and we made the masala from that. The second relationship we learned was the dakhul. And this is where one number enters into the other number completely without any remainder, such as 2 and 4. So 2 goes into 4 twice without any remainder. This type of relationship is called the dakhul. The third type we learned was tawafuk. So tawafuk is where one number goes into another number, however there's a remainder left over, but a third number goes into both of them. So an example of this would be 4 and 10. So 4 goes into 10, however there's a remainder, but another number, the number 2, which is known as the wafaq, actually goes into both of them. So this type of relationship is called the wafaq, and the final type of relationship is called the bayun. And this type of relationship, so the bayun is where there are 2 numbers, one doesn't go into another, and there's no third number which will go into both of them. An example of this would be 3 and 7. So between 3 and 7 there's no 3 goes into 7, but there's a remainder left over, and there's no third number which will go into both of them. These are 4 nisbas or connections or relationships that we learnt last time, and we can use these 4 relationships to consider this problem here, and how to resolve it such that at the end of it the various parties will get a full share. So what I'll do is I'll just draw out the problem again, so we've got some more space. So we have an ab and bint, 10 of these daughters. We know that in situations such as this, the father gets 6 plus asaba, and the daughters share 2/3. The masala is made from 6 because that's the lowest common denominator, and that relationship is the dakhul relationship, number 2. 3 will go into 6 without a remainder, so we take the high of the two numbers, the 6, and make the masala, or make the problem from 6. And then we assign the portion, so 2/3 of 6 is 4, 1/6 of 6 is 1, which leaves a remainder of 1, so the father shares 2/6 or a third. It's good to actually define a few of these few things in this scenario. So the first thing is the number of people, the number of heads. In this situation, the 10 and the 1 father, these are known as ru'us. 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 The number of people, essentially, number of people. So that's the Arabic term for the number of people. And this number down here, the number of portions, is called the siham. Siham, sin, ha, alif, mim. Siham, number of portions. And these are we consider the relationship between the ru'us and the siham. So in this situation, we're looking at the daughters. We can ignore the father because the father gets 2 parts out of 6, and there's only him, and so it doesn't need to be divided. So he'll get 2 parts out of 6, and there's no division that needs to be done. Whereas for the daughters, they have to share, the 10 of them have to share 4 parts. So we learned previously that 4 and 10 is a tawafuk relationship. And again, tawafuk means one number will go into another number, but there will be a remainder left over. However, a third number, known as the wafaq, will go into both of them. So 2 will go into 4 twice, and 2 will go into 10 5 times. In order to solve this problem, what we do, we know that the wafaq of 4 and 10 is 2, but we then find out the wafaq of just 10 alone in this particular problem. And the way we do that is we take 10 and we divide it by the wafaq of 4 and 10, which is 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, and this is known as the wafaq of 10. It gets confusing because 2 things are known as the wafaq. We've got the wafaq of 4 and 10, which we learned previously was 2, and we've got the wafaq of just 10, which in this situation is 5. So if I illustrate that with another example, let's say we had numbers 6 and 14. So we know that 6 doesn't go into 14 without there being a remainder, but we also know that there's another number which goes into both of them, which is the number 2. Now number 2 is the wafaq of wafaq is the wafaq of 6 and 14. So in order to work out the wafaq of just 14, what we do is we divide 14 by 2, and we're left with 7. And this 7 is the wafaq of just 14 in this particular situation. it doesn't always mean the wafak of 14 is going to be 7, because if we take another example, if we take 8, and 14, then again the wafak of 8 and 14 is 2, and 14 divided by 2 is actually it is 7, but it's not always going to read that way. And there are, once I think of a couple of examples, then I can give you some examples. But if we go back to this situation, the ru'us is the number of people, and the siham is the number of portions. So what we do is we find out the wafak of 4 and 12, which is 2, and then we find out the wafak of just 10, which is 10 divided by 2, which is 5. And once we have that number 5, this all important number, what we do is we multiply that at the top, which becomes 30, and then we multiply at the bottom as well. So it's 4 times 5, which is 20, and 2 times 5, which is 10. So essentially the father gets 10/30ths, and so the father gets 10/30ths, and the daughters share 20/30ths. And this time, if you look now, the daughters sharing 10/30ths, there's 10 of them, and so they each get 2 parts. They each get 2 each. So now we've got a whole number, rather than having 4/10ths each, as we had up here. We've now got them, so they're having 2 each. And this is important because we want to make sure that each beneficiary gets a full portion, to avoid situations with decimal points and fractions, etc., which can lead to messy numbers. So that's one example where we have a tawafuk relationship between the ru'us and the siham. Let's do another example where we have a tabayun relationship or tadakhul relationship. So let's consider a different example. So if we have the deceased, again he has father survived him, this time he also has a mother, and let's say he has 5 daughters. We know that the father gets a sixth plus asaba when there are daughters. The mother will get a sixth when there are children, in this case there are, and the daughters will share 2/3. Now we have 3 amounts. So what do we make the masla from? Well, we can take any 2 numbers. So if we start off this way, we'll take 2/3 and a sixth. The denominators are 3 and 6, which is a tadakhul relationship. 3 goes into 6. 3 goes into 6 without any remainder. Therefore, we take the higher number, which is 6. And then if we consider a sixth and a sixth, that's a damathul relationship. They're the same, so we can take either. So we take a sixth, and it works whichever numbers you take. You can work out the relationship, and you're always going to end up with 6. So we have 6. We then give father his 1/6, mother her 1/6, and daughters 4/6, and there's no asaba left over, so that's the shares. We now have a problem where we've got 5 daughters, and they have to share 4 parts. So the numbers are 5 and 4, and if we go back up, it's not a tamathul relationship, they're not the same numbers, so it's not number 1. It's not a tadakhul relationship because 4 doesn't go into 5 without any remainder. It's not a tawafuk relationship because 4 and 5 don't have a third number which goes into both, a whole number which goes into both of them, and so that leaves a Debian relationship, number 4. And if we go back, this is therefore Debian relationship. There's no third number will go into both of them. So in the case of a Debian relationship, all we do is we multiply by the number of ru'us. Again, this is the number of ru'us, this is the number of people. So we multiply by the number of people, so we times by 5, and again we'll have 30. And let's say we had 7 here. If we have 7 daughters, then again 7 and 4 is a Debian relationship, and what we would do is we would just multiply by 7. 7 times 6, 42. Is that right? 42. And so we times by 7 up here, we have to times by 7 down here. So instead of 1 we have now 7, instead of 1 we have 7, and instead of 4 we have 28. That's 28 plus 7 is 42. So if we write it out, UB equals 7 42s. Also gets 7 parts from 42, and the daughters they get 28 parts from 42, and we can divide 28 by 7, which means that each daughter will get 4 28ths. So they will, each daughter gets 4 parts from 42. So we have 7 of them. 4 times 7 is 28, and then we add parts that the mother and father get. So points to remember are when we have a situation where the number of people number of shares cannot equally be apportioned between the number of people. We want to correct this situation, and the way we do it is we work out the relationship between the ru'us, the number of people, and the siham, the number of portions. Where the relationship is a tawafuq relationship, then we work out the wafuq of the two numbers, and then we work out the wafuq of just the ru'us, and then we multiply that number by the top number here and also at the bottom. And where the relationship is a tawafuq relation, a Debian relationship or a tadakhul relationship, all we do is we multiply the number of ru'us at the top and at the bottom. So if we just summarize, if we have four situations, again, 4 situations, ru'us and siham. Situation number 1 is they're the same. This is called in Arabic tamathul. And we don't need to do anything. No action needs to be taken. So this is the situation where there's one person and they get 1 share. So we don't need to take any action in that situation. Number 2 is where we have a tadakhul relationship. and what we do there is we multiply by the ru'us, and similarly for a tabayun relationship, we do the same thing. So if we have a tabayun relationship between the ru'us and the siham, remember the ru'us are the number of people and the siham are the number of portions that those people are going to share. And where we have a tadakhul or tabayun relationship between those two numbers, then we just simply multiply by number of ru'us into the question. However, the fourth situation, this is 1, 2, and 3, and the fourth situation is where we have a tawafuq relationship, and this is the special case which we've covered here, where we have to work out first the wafaq of the two numbers. So in 4 and 10 the wafaq is 2, and then we take the wafaq of the ru'us number, which in this situation was 10, which is just simply 10 divided by the 2, which gives us another number which is also called wafaq, confusingly, but it's called the wafaq of just the 10, and then we multiply that into the question, and then we can finalize it. In the next few lectures I'll give some examples of this so that it becomes a bit clearer, because it's quite abstract at the moment, I can appreciate. But as you practice with anything, the more practice you get, the better and the easier it becomes.